Hey guys, this is Recipes Worth Making. My name's Mel, and today I'm going to show you how to make juicy, flaky Jamaican patties. And you're going to love it. It's super easy to make. Let's go. So to get started, you're going to want to get your meat ready. For this recipe, I'm using some veal. I'm using 1.5 pounds of meat. But you can use any meat you want. I like to grind my own meat because I hate that meat paste that you get at the grocery store. So, next step is you want to get your flavors going. You're going to add some green onion to food processor, add some thyme, and then to that I'm going to add a whole onion. I'm going to add a knob of ginger and 3 cloves of garlic. And so these are scotch bonnet peppers. They are very, very fragrant and they are very spicy. I technically should be wearing gloves for this because you know what? They burn. Like even right now, like my hands are burning just touching them. Now, you're going to want to be careful with these. If you want it less spicy, keep out the seeds, maybe only use 1. I like the hot fiery flavor, so I'm going to add 2. But as you'll notice, I'm not putting the seeds in for the second one. So now I'm going to add some seasonings and we're going to blend these all up. So we want this to be a very smooth paste. I guess you could make it chunky if you want chunks of vegetable in your patty, but I don't. I want it smooth. So yeah. So paste. So let's get started with the dough. And to start, I'm using my bigger food processor, adding 2 cups of flour and some turmeric and some curry powder. This is gonna give it that yellow flavor. So I'm gonna add some salt, add some sugar, pulse it up so it's well incorporated. Sit pulsed up. Anyhow, to that I'm gonna add some shortening. Now this is really cold. I've kept it in the fridge. Adding some shortening, and then I'm gonna give that a good pulse so that it's all mixed into the flour. See? Mixed. Now adding some butter. Now the butter is freezing, like it's just coming out of the freezer. And I'm just adding that to the food processor. And you're gonna pulse it until the butter kind of looks like peas. So you still want chunks of butter because the butter is what's gonna help create those flaky layers. Alright? So now I'm gonna add a little bit of ice cold water and I'm gonna pulse this. And you're gonna want to add the water little by little until the dough comes together and it looks like Play-Doh. I start out with about a cup of water. You might need less, you might need more. Really depends on a lot of things like humidity in your house. So I'm just kind of like pushing down the ingredients so that everything gets well incorporated. And then I'm gonna add a little bit more water. And then when it comes together and it looks like Play-Doh, that's the dough consistency that you want. So yeah, I think we're just about there. So I'm gonna flour a surface. Take the dough out, put some flour. You want to be really liberal with this flour because you don't want this dough sticking. Because the moment it sticks, the butter will get warm and then it's just a hot mess and it's just horrible. So yeah. Other thing is try not to touch the dough so much. I know it looks like I'm touching it a lot. Your hands have a lot of heat and you don't want to melt that butter. So right now the dough is really cold and I'm just trying to make a square or rectangle really quickly. before it gets warm. So I'm happy with the shape. I'm gonna cut it into 4 just because I find that smaller sections are easier to manage and my work surface is kind of small. So I'm going to wrap these up and I'm going to put them in the fridge while I start the filling. So for the filling, first we're gonna add some oil to the pan, and then we're gonna add that flavor bomb that we created, and we're just gonna cook it until some of the moisture is out of those vegetables. And then you're gonna add your meat, stir it up, make sure that everything's well incorporated. So meat is nice and brown, a lot of moisture out of it. I'm gonna add some breadcrumbs. The breadcrumbs are really important because they're gonna help retain the moisture. They're gonna make that meat filling really juicy. So very important, add the breadcrumbs. Stir, stir, stir. Make sure those breadcrumbs are well incorporated. So gonna add some soy sauce to get that dark color. And also salt. Yeah. So now I'm gonna add some water. And I'm gonna just cook it out into the meat until the meat is nice and like silky looking, like, you know, like kind of pasty. And then what I'm gonna do is I'm gonna take about maybe a quarter of this mixture and I'm gonna add it to the food processor and just blitz it really quickly so that it's like a paste. And then I'm gonna add that quarter of that paste to the rest of the meat mixture and just give it a good mix. So now let's put it together. So I'm gonna take one of my quarters out of the fridge, unwrap it, and I'm gonna roll it out. And as I said, make sure you're very liberal with that flour. Because you don't want that dough sticking to anything, because it will tear the dough and then the butter might come out and then it's just horrible. So don't do that. So what I'm doing here is I'm folding the dough onto itself. This is actually a pretty advanced technique. I think it's called laminating. This is actually how you make croissants. And what this does is the dough folding onto itself is it makes those layers. And that's how you get the flaky. Yeah, so I'm gonna do 2 folds. Each time making sure there's a lot of butter, not butter, I mean a lot of flour on the surface. Because I don't want any sticking. So after 2 layers, I'm going to roll it out to a rectangle or square that I like. And I would say that with this recipe, you can make anywhere from 16 small patties to 8 big patties. It really depends. So I took that dough and I just put it in the fridge for a bit so it could just get a little cool. And now I'm going to make 2 patties out of this. So this is actually going to be the big patty that I showed in the beginning. And so I'm going to just divide that sheet of dough into 2 and just roll it out a little bit more just so I get the size I want. And then what you'll see me doing here is I'm folding the dough onto itself and then running my hands down the middle just to make a crease. because that will help show me where the filling should go. So adding the filling, I'll let you know that I had made the filling rest in the fridge too. So the filling's cold right now, and you want it to be cold because otherwise it might melt that butter and you don't want that. So once you have the filling in, you can fold the dough onto itself. If you find that the dough is kind of dry and not sticking here, you could take a little bit of water and run it around the rim. Right? And then you're just going to take a fork and just close everything in. And then to seal it all off, I'm using this pastry cutter. You can also use a knife if you don't have a pastry cutter. So, and look, how gorgeous is that? I'm quite proud of that. So last step, let's bake this patty. These patties that I'm going to be baking right now, these are the small ones. So I actually divided that dough into 4 and I froze them overnight. So what's really great about this recipe is you can make a bunch of patties and freeze them, and they freeze really well. So they're in the oven at 425 degrees. They cook for about 20 to 25 minutes. Basically, once you can smell them, they're done. And look at these, man. Like, Bathurst subway station has nothing on me. Anyhow, I hope you enjoyed this video. For the recipe, ingredients, and like the amounts, check the description below. I'm Mel. Have a great day.